Thanks to the team for having me on the webinar. For everyone who doesn't know me, I'm Keerthi Moudgal. I run the product team at Onyx Digital Assets. We'll touch on a little bit more in detail today what Onyx by JP Morgan is, and then get into the details behind Onyx Digital Assets, which houses the firm's tokenization efforts. We'll go through a brief problem statement around what the platform is intended to solve, and then get into the details around the different use cases that we have live on the platform today. And it's super exciting that this session lined up with today's date, because we actually did announce another application that just went live last week. So we'll be able to talk about that in a little bit more detail too. But to start us off, just wanted to give everyone a brief primer on what Onyx by JP Morgan is. So Onyx is the firm's blockchain-based business unit that was launched back in 2020, but it was really founded on 5+ years worth of effort done by the firm in the blockchain space. So we actually had a smaller R&D team that was set up back in 2015 that had started experimenting with the technology and actually ended up developing Quorum, which is a fork of the Ethereum network, but with a layer of privacy and permissioning attached to it. And through that initial effort back in 2015 through 2020, we were able to work with different lines of business internally, work with different clients, and really get a sense for where blockchain can actually deliver real value. And so from there, what we ended up first launching, and I think this is around 2018, was the Link network. So Link, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, is the firm's platform for information exchange between different correspondent banks that we partner with and transact with. And what Link really, from my perspective, what Link gave us was our first foray into a productionized system built on decentralized rails, and a platform that we could then build different applications on top of. And so from there, what we did was we recognized that there was a need to bring cash on ledger, and slightly different than stablecoins or tokenized deposits that you're seeing kind of take the headlines in today's world. What we wanted to do was figure out how our clients could actually benefit from the same treatment of cash in their demand deposit account, but now functioning on blockchain-based rails where there's faster speed of settlement and programmability that could be attached to those cash movements. So through that effort, we then introduced coin systems. You might have heard this referred to in the past as JP Morgan Coin. We often get a lot of flack for the name, but really it's not a cryptocurrency. It's not a new asset. It's really just the use of a blockchain-based system to record deposit liabilities that the bank holds. That was really important, again, because I think, again, very personally, it furthered our ability to deliver on the asset tokenization agenda, because when it comes to tokenizing assets and it comes to the programmability that you can introduce around asset movement, you really unlock real value once you start introducing DVP on chain. And so we'll talk about that in just a second too. So with our understanding of what a live blockchain platform looks like with the cash on ledger, what we then introduced was Onyx Digital Assets. So Onyx Digital Assets is the firm's platform for tokenized assets. It is, again, built on Quorum, so it is a permission network, but our applications very much look and feel like every other kind of dApp in the Ethereum ecosystem, in that there's a series of smart contracts deployed on this platform that represent these financial assets and have programmability baked into them around how they move. And really what we're looking to do with Onyx Digital Assets is address the limitations in today's settlement infrastructure that prevent certain asset classes or certain newer financial products from really forming and achieving newer forms of utility in today's world. So then the last stripe that we have within the Onyx organization is the blockchain launch team. And this is the, next generation of that previous effort that I had mentioned that had gotten kickstarted back in 2015. That's looking at, what are the products of the next 5, 10, 15 years that we need to start thinking about and then incorporating into our live platforms. So there's a lot of focus that's being spent on topics such as digital identity, topics such as, figuring out how we can introduce wallets to our institutional clients in a manner that's not as disruptive as some of us might have felt interacting with wallets feels like today. This also, I think really notably, the team also spends a lot of time looking at different protocols in the public ecosystem, so DeFi protocols included, and thinking through, what would it actually take for an institution like JP Morgan to meaningfully get involved and some of those, maybe not directly involved in some of those protocols, but directly involved in terms of utilizing smart contracts in that manner to make money and assets move around a bit more effectively. So for instance, the work that we did with Project Guardian back in November of last year really centered around this idea of bridging the worlds of the institutional space with the innovation that Web3 has brought to the market. So hopefully that gives a good idea of what is Onyx, what is JP Morgan doing in the blockchain space, and what are the different product lines and stripes that we have within the organization. I'm going to move forward to how we see asset tokenization specifically. So as I mentioned, Onyx Digital Assets is the firm's asset tokenization platform. It's intended to be multi-asset, multi-functionality. And really what we're looking to do is through the tokenization of assets, leverage a blockchain and smart contracts to, at our core, record keep the different positions, but really then add on layers of programmability and build a system that's extremely composable so that we can unlock certain benefits as listed on the page. So increased utilization of these different assets, atomic settlement being a huge sort of like unlock that we get through asset tokenization. And what I mean by that is truly with a single blockchain transaction being able to see both cash and asset exchange hands between two counterparties, which is something that, centralized depositories give us in some capacity today with that trust in an intermediary. But for a lot of different types of transactions, there is settlement risk where a counterparty might be concerned with not receiving their side of the transaction at the same time that they submit to their counterparty. The other pieces that we would look to, or that we have looked to demonstrate and realize value for our clients include also boosting operational efficiency. So ensuring that, when we are creating these newer forms of utility or these newer products on top of these blockchain-based rails, it's not introducing a ton of operational overhead, and in fact is actually reducing operational overhead when it comes to mobilizing different assets. So again, the core problem statement that we're looking to address with Onyx Digital Assets really comes to the heart of expanding beyond the limitations of today's settlement infrastructure. I see that there's a question, but it was actually just a comment. Okay, so the next piece that I think I want to touch on is something that further contextualizes that problem statement that I mentioned, which gets into the core of the design of Onyx Digital Assets, which is intended to be a platform that supports multiple different types of applications. So we have two apps that are live on Onyx Digital Assets today. The first is called Digital Financing, and this was the application that we took live back in, I want to say, December of 2020, so around the same time that Onyx had launched. And it was the first app that went live on ODA alongside the platform. So Digital Financing, what it's intended to do or what it does. Sorry, I keep saying intended to, but these things are live, just to be clear. So digital financing looked to introduce a new liquidity tool into the market. So what we did was, we recognized that, today when clients want intraday funding, they're able to come to the bank, access unsecured, uncommitted lines of credit. They do so at scale in the order of, billions of dollars a day. But what they're able to get from overnight and longer term markets are access to secured financing, where they can actually place down collateral and then receive sums of financing that are much larger. And so we thought to ourselves, why has that market not really developed in an intraday capacity? And some of that comes back to these limitations that I had mentioned earlier. So because it's a bit more difficult to move cash and assets programmatically in the hours in the order of a couple minutes or a few hours, we hadn't seen that market really develop previously. So digital financing looked to couple the active tokenization. So we basically immobilized assets at the different institutions, custodial institutions, tri-party agents, so on and so forth, where they're held, and issued tokens or entitlements to those assets on the Onyx Digital Assets network. And then we coupled that with cash on ledger, so the JP Morgan coin solution, and then built a series of smart contracts to basically encapsulate the trade execution activity and settlement and maturity activity of a repo trade. So basically, we're able to take all of those different pieces and introduce an application that creates an intraday repo tool for our clients. And this application, I think, since we've gone live, we've seen nearly $1 trillion in value transacted across these rails to date, which definitely proud of, but I think it's really a testament to the fact that what we did through looking at the active tokenization is really introduce a net new functionality that our clients and ourselves weren't able to tap into previously. Similarly, the TCN, the Tokenized Collateral Network, this is the application that we went live with and I think announced today. This app builds upon that, I don't know if hypothesis is not the right word, but builds upon that idea of utilizing or of tokenizing assets to unlock a newer form of utility for that asset. So for the TCN specifically, this was an application where we partnered with BlackRock, and we they came to us with the idea of wanting to enable their own investor clients to be able to utilize their units, their ownership of money market fund shares for margin posting. So today, where they might have a series of and by they I mean fund managers in general, money market fund managers in general might have a series of investors that anytime they have to make some sort of margin posting event, they withdraw from the money market fund, they take their cash, they post to their counterparties. And, when that exposure changes, they reinvest back into the fund. So instead of that entire process, what we were looking to do is say, can we couple tokenization once again with the idea of streamlining that whole process and enabling those investors to directly just use their fund units to post. So take out all of that operational overhead of having to, withdraw from a fund, post, and then resubscribe, and actually just enable them to utilize the units directly. The reason why that's difficult to do today is in order for an investor to actually do that, they would currently have to onboard all of their all of their counterparties onto the same transfer agent where that fund is record kept. And when we think about, how many money market funds are out there, and we think about how many transfer agents are out there, that very quickly becomes to be something that's quite untenable. And so what we did here is, take that tokenization on-ramp, plug it into transfer agent infrastructure, and then enable investors who, already have these relationship set up with their with the transfer agent and with the money market fund manager to be able to just tokenize those fund shares, move them into a specific account, have them be represented on platform, and then pledge or transfer them to any receiver that had been onboarded directly to ODI. You don't have that like multi-step onboarding problem that you do in the current sort of settlement rails. And so again, I got into the weeds a little bit there, but I think the main thing to take away from that is another example of utilizing tokenization to directly create a new service or a new type of product that our clients can't currently access in today's world. There's a lot of effort also internally to look at, how can we, from an end-to-end perspective, think about tokenization of an asset. So thinking about native assets, for instance, through issuance, through trading, through settlement, so on and so forth, how can we start to build the rails for all of those pieces? But we are also recognizing that sometimes you don't need that full end-to-end issuance flow in order to unlock value. And we've demonstrated that through both digital financing and TCN. And I think that is something that slightly differentiates us from some of the other initiatives in the finance space today. So moving ahead. So this is more a visual of how we break down the Onyx Digital Assets platform. So at the top, we have the application layer, and slide needs to get updated because TCN is live. So at the top, we have the application layer, digital financing, TCN, and what we are looking to currently expand to are a new set of JP Morgan applications, but also in the future, figure out how we can partner with different applications that are built in the general blockchain space for them to deploy contracts onto ODI. So we do see that as being, something that will help unlock scale for us. And so that is an effort that we're currently working through from, a legal compliance regulatory standpoint to enable that sort of third-party activity. Then below the application layer, we have the platform layer. So this is this includes the set of assets that are onboarded onto the platform and then usable by the different applications and end users that interact with them, as well as the different platform services that those apps can tap into. So, above the blockchain layer, this is things like the JP Morgan coin system, for instance, the payments infrastructure that the different applications are using. These are also things such as a key management system to ensure that client keys are protected in the right manner. And it also includes, I think, notably integration with our legacy infrastructure. So, API connectivity to the Swift network, for instance, has been something that's pretty major in terms of helping us automate those tokenization on-ramps. And then lastly, at the baseline, we have the network of institutional participants that we connect to. So I think publicly, this is like the likes of BlackRock, Barclays, Goldman Sachs, different financial institutions that come together to form the network. Oops, sorry. Cool. So I think we have a little bit under 5 minutes left. So I think I will wrap with this slide and then happy to answer any questions. When we think about Onyx Digital Assets, what immediately comes to mind, in addition to the live use cases that have delivered, real value, as you can see on the screen, processed over 900 billion in transactions to date. A platform that can deliver real value, but also is empowered by the next set of applications, the next set of assets, and the next set of participants that come on, build on top of that platform, and can tap into these functionalities around tokenization and programmatic settlement. So with that, I will stop sharing. But happy to answer
questions for you.
questions. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay. First of all, wow, I've got goosebumps. Incredible things that you are building. The first question I have for you is, do you think there is an opportunity for bringing in stable coins like USDC onto the Onyx platform?
It's something that we've thought about previously, especially because right now, JP Morgan Coin, sorry, the name always throws me in, but JP Morgan Coin can only be held by clients who are payments clients. So already have that relationship with JP Morgan, and that's incredible, but also in some ways restrictive in that, if we're trying to tap into larger pools of liquidity and whatnot, we want to make sure that we can cater to clients who might hold cash accounts elsewhere. But I think with the stablecoin piece specifically, it'll come to two things. One is demand. So it's not something that we've actually had clients request in the past. I think part of that is around the uncertainty of, what is the stable coin? Like, is it cash or am I holding a different type of asset? And I think the second thing that it'll come down to is, obviously from a regulatory standpoint, is this permissible for us to have on the network? Oh, I think you're on mute.
That was perfect. No, I think that's super interesting and makes a lot of sense, especially given you're one of the biggest banks in the world. You can't just run through that. Another question I have for you here is, can you share more about what types of DeFi partners or protocols JPM might be interested in exploring, as in what type of functionality or use cases you think these partnerships might help solve?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I guess publicly, the protocol that we had partnered with, or not partnered with, but leveraged last year was Aave. And we can see, there's direct correlation between what the likes of like Aave and Compound can enable and what the intraday repo application does, right? It's expanding the tool sets available for accessing liquidity. But I think across the board, and sorry, this is going to be a vague answer. I think across the board, like JP Morgan's business lines touch a wide range of functions and a wide range of markets. And so really anything that crosses over into that, into any of our lines of business, which again is such a broad, I know it's broad. But anything that has that crossover is of interest to us, maybe not to, form a direct alliance, partnership, whatever, but to look at and learn from and see if there's a better way of doing whatever that market or line of business is currently doing. I hate giving vague answers, but like it is quite
totally understand. Yeah, no, this is a big one. So it's hard to get into detail. I'm going to sneak one more out of you and then we'll let you go. Again, I speak for the whole audience that this has been incredibly exciting and lot to learn there from the Onyx side of things. The last question I have here is, what regulatory or operational changes could create a hockey stick in the usage and liquidity for any of your current or future projects?
Sorry, what changes from a regulatory standpoint?
Yeah, what regulatory or operational changes could create that hockey stick that might solve for liquidity for your current projects or future projects?
Yeah, so definitely increased regulatory clarity across the board, and I don't want to say less scrutiny because I think the scrutiny is a good thing, but it does take quite a lot of effort for us to put any of our initiatives into production today. And so if there is a way that we could figure out how to like expedite some of those like review processes with our regulators, I think that's an expedite in a controlled manner, those processes. I think that's one big piece. But over and above the regulatory point, because I think everyone has heard a lot about that. Operationally, I think firms have to get comfortable with utilizing blockchains as a system for record keeping. It's something that we've spent a lot of time internally, with different teams having to get them not upskilled, but like attuned to what a blockchain is and the fact that it's not like some scary new thing that's completely different than how they record keep assets today, but it is a process to bring all folks along that journey. And so I think if there's some way of catalyzing that process across the industry, right? Because like we're one organization, that would also be, I think, pretty major in terms of bringing people on board and like unlocking new forms of liquidity. I think some of the hesitation that we see around like connecting to a blockchain or using a blockchain or just like scared of the word. I mean, no one's scared, but I think some of that hesitation is also a bit of a barrier right now in terms of adoption. Sorry, I was just going to wrap that with like, and like, if I think about it, like from where I sit, like we're really lucky in that we've made that investment and have, 250 plus people working on blockchain itself and championing our efforts within the bank. Like not a lot of clients and not a lot of like institutions necessarily have that. So I totally understand why it's a bit of a longer journey, but I think it is something that we will need to get to adoption.
Well, you and the Onyx team have made incredible investments in this space, making it all possible. I would believe anyone learning about blockchain for the first time if they don't think it's daunting or scary or some level of technophobia. But I can tell you clearly with Onyx and you, Keerthi, that it's a lot less scary. It's a lot safer to go through that process. So again, super appreciative of your time. Again, we're very lucky, everybody, that we may be getting to see you again tomorrow at our institutional panel. So if you love this keynote as much as I did, folks, you might get some more insights tomorrow. Be sure to tune in. And with that, Keerthi, we thank you and we hope you have a great day.
Thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Ciao.